My parents favored my sister, Amanda, my whole life. When she discovered that I had $10 million, she had a full-blown meltdown at Thanksgiving dinner. Whenever people ask about my childhood, I often change the subject. It wasn't that my upbringing was terrible. I had food and shelter, but it was far from ideal. My name is Deborah, and I'm 38 years old. I've chosen to share my story, not for sympathy, but because someone out there might relate. At 8 years old, my world changed dramatically with the premature arrival of my sister, Amanda. I remember my father rushing to the hospital in the middle of the night while my Aunt Jennifer stayed with me. Everyone was anxious about the baby, and I shared that anxiety. Although I didn't fully understand the complexities of premature births, I knew something was wrong. Amanda survived, but she was incredibly fragile. Our home turned into a miniature hospital, with my mother constantly cleaning. The sharp scent of disinfectants lingered in the air. If I so much as sniffled, my mother's concern was never for me, but for Amanda. "Deborah, was that a cough?" she'd ask, alarmed. "We can't take any chances. Pack a bag. You're going to Grandma's for a few days." I often found myself at Grandma's or Aunt Jennifer's, as if I carried an illness. Initially, these visits felt like small adventures, but over time, I realized I was being pushed aside. Desperate for my parents' approval, I excelled in school, earning top grades, joining the debate team, and even winning a science fair. Yet, Amanda's health always overshadowed my achievements. "Look, Mom, I won the science fair," I said excitedly, clutching my trophy. "That's nice, dear. Did you wash your hands?" "Amanda's been feeling a little under the weather," she would reply dismissively. By the time Amanda turned 7, she had outgrown her illnesses and became a robust child. Yet my parents remained stuck in their protective habits, unable to let go. Amanda, realizing the power she held, began to exploit their unwavering attention, feigning vulnerability whenever she wanted something. High school was supposed to be my moment. I worked hard, maintaining excellent grades and joining various extracurricular activities. Still, Amanda's needs always took precedence. One night, my science teacher told my parents I had a real shot at a science scholarship. "Deborah is one of our brightest students," he praised. Just then, my mother's phone rang. Amanda was at home with the babysitter and distraught. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Mom asked, concerned. Amanda sobbed through the receiver. "I can't find my favorite pen for homework. The one Deborah gave me is awful." Just like that, the moment was lost. My parents rushed home, abandoning the conversation about my future to help Amanda locate a pen. After that, they stopped attending my school events entirely, reasoning that it was easier this way, since Amanda got upset when she felt left out. Winning the state debate championship should have been a proud moment, but they didn't even display my trophy. "Amanda doesn't like seeing other people's awards," my mother explained, tucking it away in a drawer. "Getting accepted into college should have been a celebration. I earned a full-ride scholarship covering both tuition and living expenses. But when I stepped through the front door, Amanda barely looked up before rolling her eyes and saying, 'Finally, you can move out. I'm turning your room into my gaming setup. I want 3 monitors and a streaming rig.' From that moment, I began counting down the days until college. Those years flew by. I spent as much time as possible on campus, treating home like a pit stop for family dinners, where Amanda monopolized the conversation with her middle school drama. At 23, with my degree in hand, I landed a managerial role at Thompson Company. The salary wasn't enough for luxury living or expensive sushi, but I had my own place, and that was enough for me. One day, while scrolling through social media, an ad caught my attention. "Learn how to make your money work for you." Normally, I would have skipped past it, but this time, I paused. The course had a fee, but I figured I could manage it by living on cheap instant noodles for a while. That decision turned out to be life-changing. The instructor, Matthew, made investing seem simple. I started small, putting a few $100s into tech stocks and gradually increasing my investments. I researched the market, delved into risk management, and learned the essentials. My first significant success came when I invested in a small AI company that was flying under the radar. A $375 investment soared to $30.50 in just 3 months. Then, a biotech startup tripled my money. Before long, I was making more from my investments than from my regular job. The moment I realized I could leave corporate life is still fresh in my memory. Sitting at my desk, feigning interest in work, I checked my investment app. A stock had hit its target price. Running the numbers, I discovered my investment income had tripled my salary. Right then, I penned my resignation letter. Still, I maintained the habit of attending Saturday family dinners, perhaps out of routine, or maybe out of hope that something might change. I would sit there, eating my mom's average chicken, while listening to them talk about Amanda as my investments quietly generated income in the background. "Deborah, you're still at Thompson's, right?" Mom would ask, her interest clearly waning. "Yep, same job," I'd respond, fully aware they'd stop paying attention before I even finished my sentence. It was simpler that way. No need to explain that I had left 2 years prior and was now making more in a day than I used to in a month. Amanda was the center of every meal. She had been accepted into Carleton University, a pricey private institution. "It's a huge cost," Mom would sigh, though her tone revealed nothing but pride. "But Amanda deserves the best." We took out loans, but it was worth it for our little girl's future. Amanda, twirling her pasta, would casually mention, "My roommate has a Gucci backpack. Everyone here comes from such wealthy families." The implication was unmistakable. Our family didn't measure up. Then, one Saturday, I found Mom in tears over a pile of bills. Dad sat at the table, buried in paperwork. "Property taxes have gone up again," he muttered, "and with Amanda's tuition." Watching them struggle, I remembered all the times they had prioritized Amanda over me. But no matter what, they were still my parents. That night, I arranged for an automatic transfer of $7,000 a month into their account. When I shared the news, Mom hugged me for the first time in years. "Oh, Deborah, this will help so much." I held on to a glimmer of hope that things might change, that perhaps they'd finally see me in a different light. But that hope shattered when I overheard them in the kitchen after dinner. "We should give some of Deborah's money to Amanda," Mom suggested. "At least $450. The poor thing feels so out of place surrounded by all those rich students." Dad immediately agreed. "Good idea. She needs to maintain appearances. Maybe she can finally get that designer bag she's been wanting." I wanted to burst in and tell them everything, that I had quit my job years ago, that my investments had made me wealthier than they could imagine, that if I wanted, I could buy out the entire store they were so eager to help Amanda shop in. But I didn't. I just stood there, shaking my head as they plotted to funnel my money into Amanda's social status. By the time I turned 29, I felt ready for a new chapter. My investments had surpassed my wildest dreams, and I was done with renting. After months of searching, I discovered the perfect apartment. Secure and boasting a stunning city view. It wasn't extravagant, just well-built and spacious enough to feel like home. The best part? I could buy it outright. No mortgage, no debt, no financial strings attached. On the day I received the keys, I stood in the empty living room, listening to my footsteps echo against the walls. This place was mine. No one else had a claim to it. No loans, no need for approval from anyone but myself. When Mom called, as usual, to talk about Amanda under the guise of checking in on me, I casually mentioned that I was moving. "Did you find a cheaper place to rent?" she asked, distracted, rustling papers in the background. "Just a different place," I replied vaguely. "Better location." "Well, don't spend too much on rent, honey," she responded. Deborah knew how unstable the job market was in her field, and she nearly laughed at her mother's assumption. If only she understood that Deborah now managed millions in investments rather than pushing papers at Thompson's. At the next family gathering, Aunt Jennifer inquired about Deborah's new place. Before she could respond, Mom interjected, "Deborah's renting a new apartment," dismissively, then quickly shifted to Amanda's achievements. "But wait until you hear about Amanda's big news. She's about to graduate at the top of her class from Carleton University." As usual, the conversation turned into an Amanda highlight reel. Relatives praised Amanda's bright future, while occasionally glancing at Deborah with mild sympathy. "Amanda's going places," Dad declared proudly. "Not that we're surprised. She's always been our star. Companies are already competing to hire her." Deborah's cousin added, just loud enough for her to hear. "Unlike some people who settle for being average." Deborah took a slow sip of her wine, reflecting on the stock deal she had made earlier that day, one that earned her more in a single day than her cousin made in an entire year. But she said nothing. It was easier that way. Then came Amanda's graduation party. Mom and Dad went all out with catered meals and elegant decorations. Deborah couldn't help but notice that a significant portion of the money she sent them funded the celebration, but by now, she was accustomed to it. Amanda strutted around in her cap and gown, clutching her diploma like a trophy. "Look at this, Deborah," she said, shoving it in her face. "Carleton University, not some state school like the one you went to. I already have interviews lined up with top companies. I'm not going to end up pushing papers like you." Deborah took another sip of her drink. "Congratulations, Amanda." "That's all you have to say?" Amanda scoffed. "Aren't you jealous? I mean, I'm going to be so successful and you're just, well, you." Amanda stood there, practically vibrating with the need for validation. Deborah could have easily mentioned her investments, her fully owned apartment, and how she earned more before finishing her morning coffee than Amanda would in her entire first year of work. But what would be the point? Instead, she simply shrugged and walked away, leaving Amanda clutching her diploma, a shield against her own insecurities. 3 months post-graduation, Amanda was still job hunting. The companies she had boasted about didn't seem impressed with her pricey degree after all. Meanwhile, the student loan bills started rolling in. One evening, Mom called. "Deborah, do you have a second to talk?" Deborah already knew what was coming, Amanda's loan payments. Mom hesitated, likely trying to add drama to her words. "They're really taking a toll on us, honey, and with all our other expenses, I hate to even ask, but could you possibly—" "How much do you need?" Deborah cut in, sensing she'd regret it. "Well, if you could raise your monthly contribution to $3,500, it would be an absolute lifesaver." Deborah thought about all the times they had dismissed her accomplishments and how Amanda had mocked her career. Yet, she also considered her bank account, comfortably sitting in the 7-figure range, something her family remained completely oblivious to. "All right," she finally said, "I'll adjust the payment starting next month." Mom barely got her thank you out before launching into plans for the money. "This will help so much with Amanda's loans, and maybe we can get her some proper outfits for interviews." A few weeks later, Amanda finally landed a job at the same company where Dad had connections. He just so happened to know the HR director from college. The irony wasn't lost on Deborah when Amanda walked in with the title of manager. One weekend, Deborah dropped by her parents' house and found Amanda sprawled across the couch, scrolling through apartment listings on her phone. "Everything is ridiculously overpriced," she complained. "I can't believe I have to stay here with Mom and Dad. It's so humiliating." "You could consider a smaller place," Deborah suggested, "or maybe look outside the city center." She shot me a look as if I had proposed she live in a cardboard box. "I need to be in the right neighborhood, Deborah. Not that you'd understand. Some of us have actual standards." I glanced around our parents' modest living room, where she was currently living rent-free, but I kept my thoughts to myself. She sighed, tossing her phone aside. "This is just temporary. Unlike you, I won't be stuck as a manager forever. I have real potential." As Thanksgiving approached, Mom threw herself into her usual frantic hosting routine. Every year, she insisted on doing everything herself, turning the kitchen into a chaotic mess. But this time felt different. "I have no idea what I'm going to do," she lamented over the phone a week before Thanksgiving. "I strained my back, pulling Amanda's laundry out of the dryer, and now I can barely stand. How am I supposed to cook for 20 people? "Why don't you let me take care of it?" I suggested. "I can have everything catered from that new restaurant downtown." Mom's tone brightened immediately. "You're such a wonderful daughter. I don't know what we'd do without you." On our video call, I caught a glimpse of Amanda in the background, dramatically rolling her eyes. Even the smallest bit of praise directed at me was enough to ruin her mood. Thanksgiving Day arrived, unfolding like every other family gathering. The catered food showed up on time, and I helped Mom set everything up, while ignoring Amanda's ongoing comments about how store-bought stuffing could never measure up to homemade. I brought my laptop along since the Asian stock markets would open during dinner, and I had investments to monitor. I set it up in my old bedroom, left it running, and joined my family. The food was excellent, far better than Mom's usual dry turkey. As everyone got comfortable with their plates, Mom couldn't resist bringing up her injured back. "I was so worried about how I'd manage all the cooking," she told the room full of aunts, uncles, and cousins. But Deborah stepped in and arranged for this wonderful catered meal. Wasn't that thoughtful? "That was really generous of you, Deborah," Aunt Jennifer smiled warmly. "I imagine it wasn't cheap." "Oh, it's nothing," I replied, brushing it off. "I'm just glad everyone's enjoying it." Mom added proudly, She earns enough at that management job to help us quite a bit. Probably the first time she had openly acknowledged anything I did. Across the table, Amanda's face darkened. Without warning, she shoved her chair back and stormed out of the room. I thought it was just one of her usual tantrums, but something felt different. When she returned, she was gripping my laptop, her smirk sending a cold wave of dread through me. "Let's find out just how well Deborah's really doing," she announced, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "Since she's so generous, she won't mind if I show everyone her bank balance. Time to expose what a fraud she actually is." I shot up from my seat. "Amanda, don't!" But it was too late. She had already turned the laptop around. My banking app, still open from earlier, was on full display. The room went utterly silent. Amanda's expression twisted as all the color drained from her face. Her hands trembled so violently I thought she might drop the laptop. "Amanda?" Mom's voice wavered with concern. "What is it? What does it say?" Amanda's voice came out in a whisper. $10 million. The silence was suffocating. I could hear the ticking of Mom's old wall clock, the hum of the refrigerator, and the faint clatter of my cousin's fork hitting his plate. "There must be some mistake," Aunt Jennifer murmured, leaning closer. "Deborah's just a manager at Thompson." "I haven't worked at Thompson in years," I stated calmly, finally telling the truth. "I left to focus on investing full-time. I studied the markets, took courses, and became highly skilled." "You mean you're rich?" Amanda's voice cracked on the last word. I took a slow breath, looking at the stunned faces around me. "I've been investing for years. I started small, learned as I went, and yes, that account has $10 million in it. I wasn't keeping it a secret. You all just never asked." The silence barely lasted 3 seconds before Mom shattered it with a piercing shriek. $10 million! She jumped up, her face turning an alarming shade of red. "You've had $10 million and you let us struggle?" I stared at her in disbelief. "Struggle? I send you $2,000 every single month." Her voice soared to a piercing pitch. "Your sister has student loans. We have bills. How could you be so selfish, so unbelievably greedy?" Dad's expression twisted with rage. "We raised you better than this, Deborah. You've been sitting on all this money while your own family suffers?" Something inside me snapped. Years of being the overlooked one, the reliable yet insignificant daughter, crashed down all at once. "Oh, so saving money is a crime now? That's rich," I scoffed, though there was nothing humorous about it. "Tell me, where were Mom and Dad's magical savings when it was time to pay for your college, Amanda?" "Oh, that's right. They never saved a dime because they spent everything on you. But here's the kicker. They didn't pay for my education either. I earned a full scholarship while you racked up loans for your fancy private school." "That's completely different," Mom snapped. Amanda wanted, Amanda. I cut her off, my voice rising. "It's always been about Amanda." "Well, here's a reality check. My money is mine. Every single dollar, I earned it. $3,500 a month is nothing to you," Mom shot back. "You should be giving us at least $10,000. We're your parents." A sharp, bitter laugh escaped me. $10,000? What, so you can keep pampering your golden child? I turned to Amanda, who was inching away now. "You wanted to expose me as a failure? How's that working out for you? The sister you mocked for being just a manager turned out to be the one who actually made something of herself. Tell me, Amanda, how does that feel?" The entire family sat frozen, forks in midair, watching the disaster unfold like a chaotic tennis match. "If you're so successful," Mom sneered, "then you should be supporting your family. That's your duty." "My duty?" I stepped closer to Amanda and snatched my laptop from her trembling hands. "No, my duty ended the moment you decided I didn't matter. You put everything into Amanda because she was the special one with the bright future. Well, go ahead. Let her and that bright future of hers take care of you." Aunt Jennifer tried to intervene. "Maybe we should all take a breath." But it was too late. Mom and Dad were both yelling now, their voices merging into a deafening storm of anger, blame, and entitlement. Amanda had burst into tears, her go-to move when things didn't go her way. I didn't say another word. I just turned and walked out of the house I had once called home. As I reached my car, I could still hear my mother's furious voice screeching behind me. The messages started before I even made it back to my apartment, my phone buzzing nonstop with calls and texts from Mom, Dad, and Amanda. At first, they were furious and demanding. Then they shifted to guilt-tripping. I tried responding at first, thinking maybe, just maybe, they'd finally understand. But it was useless. They didn't want to understand. They wanted my money. Then Mom took it to social media. Her post was a masterpiece of manipulation. My heart aches to learn that my eldest daughter has become wealthy while her family struggles. She refuses to help her sister with her student loans or support her aging parents. Money truly does change people. Please keep Deborah in your prayers so she remembers the meaning of family. The backlash came from all angles. Family friends I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had strong opinions about me. How could she be so heartless? I always sensed something was off about her. What kind of person abandons their own family? Mom eagerly engaged with every comment, responding with crying emojis and messages of gratitude for their support. The relatives who had witnessed the Thanksgiving chaos stayed silent, but their silence did nothing to halt the flood of judgment. Strangers and distant acquaintances labeled me selfish, ungrateful, and cruel. That was the final straw. I opened my banking app and stared at the automatic transfers to my parents, $3,500 every single month, money they had dismissed as if it were insignificant. With a single tap, I canceled it. Then I sent one last message to Mom. I've stopped the payments. I'm done being your personal ATM. Don't contact me again. But they didn't grasp the gravity of the situation. The calls escalated, bombarding my phone at all hours. Amanda used different numbers to reach me whenever I blocked hers. Dad left endless voicemails droning on about my supposed obligation to family. Mom doubled down on her social media theatrics, twisting the narrative further. I blocked them all. Phone numbers, emails, every social media account they could use to contact me. Knowing they wouldn't stop there, I took precautions. I called James, the front desk manager of my building. I need to put some names on the do not allow list, I told him, providing their full names, descriptions, and even showing him their pictures. He nodded, noting everything down. Sure enough, the very next day, James called. My parents and Amanda had shown up, trying to force their way in. They made a scene in the lobby, shouting threats and even claiming they'd call the police.